Hey, this is Stevie Batiste from Microsoft, and you're listening to Talknology.
Sam.
Dave.
Talknology.
What?
You ready?
What?
Let's go. Welcome, folks, to the 9th of November 2012. This is Talknology, and you're listening to Pragmatic on Twitter. So, two things hit me this week. The whole Twitter groundswell about Barack Obama's victory with this 750,000 retweets of his legendary 4 more years status update. And lately, TechCrunch reporting that the social network had surpassed 500 million account registrations. There is a connection, and it's obviously Twitter. I find that Twitter is kind of derided, though, almost as a second-class passenger to the Facebook driver. I don't believe that's justified, though, and I actually believe Twitter to be the winner for many people so far. And here to talk about what Twitter means today is my favourite social media expert. Yes, and I hate using the word expert, but it's justified here. Michelle Prack. She's one of my automatic go-tos when social media is concerned. Former social media legend in Australian PR circles, and now celebrating her first year as a solopreneur with a funky new infographic. Morning, Prack.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great. And thank you for joining me on Your Morning, My Night, though I have to say I've got the luxury of recording this at night, knowing that it'll be a morning when this gets broadcast. So I hope that makes sense to someone out there. But thank you so much. So what's your take then, Michelle, on the whole Twitter thing? Do you think we've seen the best, and is it star fading, or do you think that now we're only starting to understand Twitter's true potential?
It's a tricky question to answer because for some people they're just discovering Twitter's potential, you know, the Twitter newbies, and when you first get onto Twitter you can get quite excited by it, and it's fantastic when you finally cotton on to what it's all about. But I've been on Twitter for a few years with some others, and I guess for those different audiences, some of them might be a little jaded by Twitter, or they might still be enthusiastic about it as well. So I think it's all about your own experiences of Twitter too. But as you said earlier, it still hasn't reached the numbers of a platform like Facebook. For example, in terms of numbers, you can still go out onto the street and there are lots of people that don't use Twitter and would joke about Twitter as well, and it hasn't got that same population as Facebook does. But for me, Twitter is a fantastic platform. It's my favourite, and I just think it's networking on fire, and I really enjoy Twitter.
That networking on fire is great. I saw Lenny Kravitz the other day urging his peers in America to go and vote with his sticker on Twitter. I thought, this is Twitter getting funky, but it's 6 years old, which I suppose in social terms is a lifetime. Yeah, I might be wrong here. I'm sensing that now is possibly the best time to start using Twitter, because we're starting to lay down some rules. It's a little less lawless. We're a little bit more older about the whole thing. Are you getting that feeling? Are we in that kind of age now where it's really starting to mature and grow up, or has it gone past that point?
No, I think you're right. I think it is starting to mature and grow up, and part of the reason for that is the new type of user. So, we do see more politicians and more, I guess, community leaders and even government departments, and that might sound dry, but more of these types of Twitter users now who are on the platform and communicating with it in a really kind of professional manner. So we're seeing it leveraged in all sorts of different ways, but it's just more of a mainstream and legitimate communication tool for these sort of organisations now. So in that way, it is maturing. And, we still do have, of course, the teens on Twitter that just want to tweet about Bieber all day, and that's fine as well. But that's the thing I love about Twitter. It's like any networking or any socializing. You tend to congregate with the kinds of communities and voices and brands and people that you want to hang out with. So you can really make it work for you. But yeah, with these bigger brands using Twitter, it's definitely becoming a bit more of a professional tool. And there's lots of key accounts that you could follow and learn from as well.
That's interesting. It clearly has got legitimacy. It's got respect. It spans demographics, all these good points that you've just made. And on top of that, news organisations are not just taking heed, they're actually taking their agendas from that Twitter has defined, which is exciting. So I, as a business, maybe have been skeptical so far about Twitter. In fact, I've never really been truly in the game as far as social's concerned. What do you think the things are that I need to know right now about getting the best from Twitter?
I think the key thing to remember with Twitter is it's much more community than marketing or advertising or promotions. And that's a thing I say to clients quite often. You know, we go to social media places like Twitter with a marketing or PR hat on, but we need to remember that it's a very personal space where people are there to have fun and, you know, talk to brands or friends and have more of a casual kind of time. So if you're going to Twitter thinking it's like a billboard where you can talk about yourself all the time and get customers, it's not going to work. Quite often it works not for sales but more for the networking side of your profession. So you might keep up with what's happening in your industry or, you know, talk to the traditional media via Twitter and all of those sorts of things and not really talk sales, if you like. So that's the key thing to remember. It's more of a networking function. I've heard it called a cocktail party before, which I don't quite like. It's more of a community square or a town square. Where you're just mingling with a lot of people, you're being real, and also you need to remember you're listening a lot. It's not just talking about yourself all the time, but listening to what others are saying, which can be really valuable for your business.
It's the focus group thing, isn't it? Again, as well as you mentioned at the start, the community. I mean, to build the community is almost the very first leg up the ladder. And then you can actually harness and leverage that community, can't you, on Twitter by doing things like tweet chats, engaging with the people that you've built up who now are your tweeps. I don't actually think we've got an official term for the Twitter people who follow you. Well, maybe we should coin one on the show today. It's quite exciting. I'm spellbound by the savviness that you've got there. I'm spellbound by the Aussie accent, obviously, as you would expect. And I love the community. We spoke with Tammy Lister, who produces Buddy Press websites just earlier on this week. And the one thing about Twitter that really works for me is that you can spread the message. And there lies the problem, Michelle. The stream is always changing, and as soon as you follow more than a handful of people, those messages are falling down that stream quicker than water in a cascade. I want to understand, if I'm new to Twitter and I want to use this really well, I want to have a reassurance to a point that my messages are going to hit home. And is there any way I can kind of help that happen, or do we need Twitter to get more sophisticated, or do we hope that the users will start using Twitter more intelligently, perhaps using search.twitter.com to find what they want? How's this all going to play out in your mind?
Yeah, I think you've already touched on something there in that we are relying on Twitter users to be a little more savvy as well. We are relying on them to search for hashtags, for example. So you'll see a lot of organizations now have an official hashtag that they're nurturing, a hashtag that hosts their conversation and their community and the topics that they're interested in, and they work very hard in having a regular conversation with them, target customers or target stakeholders around that hashtag. But you're absolutely right. After you spend a lot of time on Twitter, you do tend to follow more and more, and I follow about 6,000 accounts now, and there's no way I can keep up with those 6,000 Twitter accounts, even though I might be interested in, most of them, and they might have valuable things to share with me. So one of the key things I do from the other side of the fence, the listening side, is that I use Twitter lists. And if I didn't have Twitter lists, I don't think I'd be able to, sift through my tweet stream at all. So, for example, I have a list of friends on Twitter. So there are my real life friends, Adelaideans who I meet at the pub and can go out with, and so on. So I make sure I don't miss out on what they're saying, because in the morning I can just hop onto that Twitter friends list, and at the same time I have a Twitter list for clients. So again, I can dip into what clients have been tweeting. I have a Twitter list for media and mostly local media, so I can keep up with the news.
Great plan.
And if I didn't go to those lists, I'd miss so much on my main Twitter newsfeed. So it's really useful to do that as well. And it sounds rather dry and it sounds like you're being a librarian, but it's worth putting your Twitter accounts onto lists.
That's from our perspective, from the user's perspective, from the clever user's point of view. There are theories, aren't there, that scheduled updates where you can use a third-party application, for example, Hootsuite, to actually put the same message out but in a different way multiple times a day to try and get that cut through and to try and get the mind share. And there are people on both sides of the fence, aren't there, about that? The same about retweets. You know, if you've got something that is interesting, that is absorbing, then by having people automatically retweet on your behalf because they're instinctively fascinated by what you've got to say, that's another way of almost guaranteeing that you're going to be in the right place at the right time. What are your theories on the whole scheduling of Twitter updates and trying to make something go viral that we know is pretty impossible in any environment? Is there any mileage in those to help people reach the people that they want when they want them?
Yes, definitely. There is value in scheduling tweets, but it all depends on the type of tweet as well. It has to be a very safe kind of one, if you like. So it's a tweet reminding people about an event that you've got coming up. It's something that you know you want to post for a few days or over a few weeks, and it's something quite innocuous, because scheduled tweets can be dangerous when a topic changes or something terrible happens, or the person that you're promoting is suddenly in jail. And so you have to be aware of those sort of things that can go awry with your scheduled tweets. But time management is a big question surrounding our use of social media, and scheduled tweets can simply help you so that you don't have to be at the keyboard and be pressing the button all the time to get tweets out over the evenings or on the weekends. Yeah. But speaking of tools to help you find people and to help you tweet at the right times, if there is such a thing, there are sites and tools like Crowd Booster, which will go through your Twitter account and recommend to you the best times for you to tweet. And that's based on the success of previous tweets that you've sent out. So you can find that at crowdbooster.com, and I think that's quite a useful tool, and there's probably many more like those.
We did say we were going to get pragmatic on Twitter today, and we certainly haven't disappointed. Michelle Prack, obviously better known as Pracky in these social circles, at Pracky, double K, pracky.com.au. I want to turn my attention to your website, Michelle, because, girl, you've got this going on. This is fantastic. This is Web 4.0. If that even exists ever, working with organisations and government departments to help them through the social media minefield. You've got huge experience in social. You've done it for big brands. You've done it yourself now for a year. Congratulations, by the way. This is amazing stuff.
Thank you so much.
Such a cool site. Prakipedia is almost globally recognised as the de facto standard in social. Where are you at right now, Michelle? You're a year into your own career on your own 2 feet. How's it going, and what's the plan?
Oh, it's going fantastically well, and I'm really enjoying it. And this is the part where I should tell you that I have a plan, but it's quite organic. I do have target markets myself, working mostly with like governments and larger businesses, and really enjoying that. But one of the fascinating things I found this year is there's been a much greater demand for public speaking and social media training than I expected. So even though social media has been around for many years now, there are still so many organisations that aren't quite sure what to do. So my role is still very educational, which has really surprised me.
It's an incredible site, and I don't mean to kiss arse on this. It's an incredible site. It's beautiful. It's simple. I bet it even works on mobile, smart ass. I think it's fantastic. And I want to ask, who did your website? Because, A, I want one, but B, I can imagine a lot of people when they go to pracky.com.au will want one too.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I just met with her yesterday, actually. Her name's Melba, and she runs Blank Studio. So you can find that at blankstudio.com.au. And, she did a great job, and created my logo and all the colours and the whole look from the ground up. So yeah, I was really happy to work with her.
Right, that's that. But if you want social media strategies, presentations, social media training, or digital communication support, advice, or consultancy, hate to use the word consultancy, you didn't, I did. Got to get over to pracky.com.au. Before we let you go, Michelle, I have a question to ask you about Christmas. There's a geek gift-giving guide over at Talknology where we assemble the finest presents available for anyone who has even the vaguest inclination towards tech. And I'm curious, of all the things that we've got in the world today, what would you like in Santa's sack this coming Christmas that has even a vague inclination towards tech?
Wow. And
Black
again,
canvas.
Yeah, I've not really. I guess I'm not a really techie or gadgety kind of person. Everything in that vein, I have. I mean, I was an early adopter of the iPod, and I had a docking station before a lot of other people, which is a great big clunky thing that no one has anymore.
I forget that you only got electricity last year in Adelaide.
This is true, with the colonies. Remember. No, I'm really, really happy with everything I've got at the moment. So I'm just looking forward to some time off around Christmas time. It's hard to detox when you are a social media consultant, but also, I just really love social media too. So, yeah, I might just try to tweet just a few Christmas photos on Christmas Day and then have a rest.
You are perfect as you are. Michelle Prack there. Thank you so much for joining us on Talknology and for helping us figure out the mysteries and the vagaries of Twitter. I think we're all a hell of a lot stronger now and ready to face that big blue bird with a bit more strength and confidence. So thanks for your time today. It's been great.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Talknology with Dave Thackeray. We'd love to hear what you think about the show. So drop us an email at dave@talknology.org or get over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Talknology.